Hi guys, so I'm last today, so I'll try and make it quick and we have a drink. If you've heard of Pivotal, and it sounds like many of you have, you'll know that we're very well known for our focus on the how of writing software. So we're very much from the agile school. I heard us earlier today called the reference implementation of extreme programming. So we're very big on technology disciplines, paired programming, test-driven development, iterative development, all the usual stuff that I'm sure you're familiar with, all the buzzwords that are now cool but weren't when we started. But I'm not going to preach to you today about those things in particular and the whys of how we do them on software projects. I want to talk today about software development culture, especially given that I'm assuming many of you are in a position where you're successful so far with your culture and you've had success, you've obviously had investment, and you're poised for growth, or you're about to experience potentially very significant growth. And one of the practices that we do, which is pairing, that I think isn't talked enough about in the area of keeping culture. It's talked a lot about in terms of making you write code faster, theoretically, or better, but not a lot about in terms of keeping your company culture as you grow. In my role, I talk to companies in your position all day long, every day. We serve about 100 companies a year, and they're almost all funded by VCs or in a rapid stage of growth. And they come to us often because they think their code's in trouble or their team isn't producing, and we have a lot of great developers to help them with that. But what I always notice is that the common thread amongst them is that their culture has fallen apart. That's one of the biggest problems that are underlying their issues. And we help them a lot. We give a lot of culture to them, but we're always trying to get back to what their original culture was and keep that constant as they grow. And I'm going to make the bold and hopefully controversial claim that paired programming can help you guys a lot with that, keeping a culture as you grow. So I'm not going to talk about that much about why culture is important. I think everyone can tell you that a strong software development culture is important. We all want one. Just briefly though, culture is important to keep your identity of the group together, to allow you to grow without fragmenting across your company, to attract hiring and so on. I think everyone would agree that it's really hard to have a high-performing, especially large team without a strong software development culture. People don't all agree, though, on what a software development culture is. What it isn't, and what I hear a lot of people talk about it as if it were, is this sort of stuff. Technical choices, or how we make them, or the tools we have in place, or strong coding standards, or strong code review policies, or a statement like, we're all behind writing great code, right, and we're all in it together, and high fives. I would even claim that it isn't hiring great people and letting them do their thing. Hopefully I'm getting controversial as I go here. I would not say it's a great team lead, and I also wouldn't say it's a strong company culture, which I think is a common mistake. So often a startup or a small company with a great product idea attracts engineers because of the product idea. There's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of excitement, and the engineers get along really well, and they build some great software to begin with. But then as growing pains develop, or as the product rather, doesn't do perfectly every day, the software development culture starts to break down, and especially it breaks down as you hire. So just having a great company culture or a great product is by no means sufficient to have your software development culture stay strong as you grow. I have tons of clients I'm not allowed to tell you about, with names you've definitely heard of, which you'd be surprised at the trouble they're in with their software development culture, because their products are so great. I would claim, maybe it isn't that controversial, that a software development culture is purely the behavior and interaction of the software development team. And there isn't a right one. All of our clients come to us with a different inherent culture, and we try and foster it and get back to it, and especially give them a way to grow it as they grow. It needs to provide these things: how you make decisions, a structure for the whole team to get involved, not just the rock star you have hired early on, a way to enforce accountability, especially to the business side of the company. And what I'm going to get to now is that the manifestation of your culture, I'm not going to try and define your own, but the manifestation of your particular culture is day-to-day teamwork, right? You've all got a different one, you've all had success so far with it, but the manifestation of it, what it looks like to your developers and your PMs and everyone else involved, is the teamwork day to day, right? So just to stop for a second, where I work, we have 150 developers, we have 4 different geographical offices, we're growing at about that pace, half again every year. the last few years. We're about to open 3 more offices, so almost double the number that we currently have. 100 or so clients a year, about 35 clients at a time. So we're in a position where we're growing our company fast, pretty fast anyway. We're trying to keep our culture consistent as we grow and hire in different cities and open up new offices. And we're also all the time working with other companies in their culture. So it's only more important for an agency like mine to have a very strong culture. And if we didn't have one and we didn't have a way to keep it strong, we'd be in serious trouble, right? But we are growing it and it is being successful. I joined when we had 3 people. So something's going on here that's keeping our culture constant despite the fact that we have almost no products of our own. It's all work for clients, right? And you could say we have a strong culture for various reasons, but I'm going to make the claim that the pair programming aspect of our development culture is the most important part of how we can keep that culture constant as we get bigger. Here's hopefully a controversial slide. I'm going to wake you guys up. I constantly find myself feeling like teamwork, the manifestation of culture, is undefined or poorly defined or not agreed on at all in our industry. You know, we talk a lot about what great engineers look like. We talk a lot about how to write great code. What teamwork actually is in our industry, I think we're woefully behind on that. I think we're decades behind where we should be. So often I come into clients and what a team is just people with the same manager on the same code base. That's what a team is, surely. And yes, that's necessary for a team usually, but that is nowhere near enough to define teamwork. We commonly hire great people. Maybe we interview for them. We get all sorts of important individuals on our team, and we just let them go and do their work in their own style with just enough constraints around them so they don't break something, or they don't break the team, or things just kind of stick together, right? And we do encourage the rockstar mentality. We reward people who work all night and all weekend and do amazing things, right? We do that, and we commonly have an 80-20 situation where there's 80% of the work done by one rockstar, and the rest of the team does almost none of the work. That's very commonly what I come across, even at these big name companies, right? We're very afraid in management in general to impose a formal structure on a team. And so we're left with a situation where we have some rock stars, some underperformers, you know, a hodgepodge of different talents with no real ability to work together as a team. Now, I've come across various ways to fix that and to develop a sense of teamwork, and therefore to keep a culture constant as you grow. But the one that I've found that's the easiest to put in place, not easy, but the easiest to put in place, let's say simple statement that works in almost every situation that I've seen, despite the personalities involved, and I'll get back to answering what questions I'm sure you have there, is pairing. And the reason I think that works so well is that in the end, what was said originally, what was said a few minutes ago by a different speaker, I think we all know in our heart of hearts that software development really is about people, and really it's a social activity, right? And that realization drives us to think about pairing as the core unit of teamwork. And that, the claim I'm making in this talk, is that that is how we're able, and I think how you could be able if you were to embrace it, to keep our culture constant, together, consistent as you grow, even as you grow in orders of magnitude. So that's my claim. The best way to foster teamwork and therefore keep your culture constant as you grow is pair programming. At Pivotal, all of our engineers, which is about 150, pair all day, every day, with any client engineers that are involved. So at any given moment at our company right now, it's just before 6, there are about 250 people pair programming all day, every day, on about 35 projects. And so, you know, these are the commonly held benefits of pair programming that you've probably read in books. You know, theoretically, your code-based knowledge is shared, so you've got a higher bus count, you get a higher quality output, 2 heads are better than 1, etc. You get discipline around other enforcements of practices. Those are the typical things that I'm not going to go into today. I'm assuming you've heard those before. My point is that pairing is a culture builder and a culture maintainer. The whole team's working on one code base, the overall team performance is raised, the communication technically is just given to you because you're pairing and switching pairs all the time. You know, the idea of 80-20 goes away, people are much more at the same level, you get feedback on each other very quickly, you can onboard people extremely quickly. That's one of the biggest things. You have a new hire, they can join the team, and day 1 they're productive. Right, they spread around the team, immediately they're valuable across the team, they onboard very much faster than usual. And in a larger company situation, which I know some of you are in, maybe you've got multiple 10, 15 person teams working on different parts of a service architecture perhaps, it gives you a natural way to cross-pollinate those teams and keep the communication even between those teams high without a managerial structure getting in the way. So these are the kinds of reasons that we find pairing to be so powerful as a teamwork enabler and therefore a way to keep your culture constant as you grow. So what does it look like if you're not familiar with how we do things or how the kind of by-the-book pairing looks like? And here I want to get into the kind of practical aspect of it, so that if you want to go down this road, these are the kind of things to consider. So I'm going to stop advocating for it and talk about now what it actually looks like and maybe how you get there. The whole team and every one of our projects is sitting together, so physically together. We do very little work remotely between offices. The machines are communal. No one has their own machine. They're just like 3 machines and 6 people, and it doesn't matter what machine you're working at. The pairs rotate every day, so stand up every morning, pairs are chosen. We try and pair people up who haven't paired before, who have the most disparate skill sets, who are the most and least experienced, because you want to equalize as soon as you can across the team, right, and make it more of a teamwork situation. And we consider the unit of workers, rather than being the individual, we give autonomy and power and can consider it sacred at the pair level. So the pair has power to do a lot. They're responsible for quality of code, they're responsible for technical choices, they're responsible for writing good stuff. And when you say that, it sounds obvious, but if you then change the pairs every day, you're giving power to the whole team as one, really, when you do that. Rather than power to the individual only, who don't interact at the code level with each other. So just by saying you pair, you get this stuff happening naturally, which is my point. It may be difficult to get pairing in place, but it's much easier to do that than to try and come up with some other sense of culture building or teamwork, right? So practically speaking, how do we get there? I'm guessing that many of you don't do it at all, or have done it before without great success, or are trying to do it some of the time. People like me who are really into this kind of stuff, commonly come across very zealoty, very much like you do it full out or it's a failure, don't even try to do half of it, and it's black or white and you've got to commit or not. And so I'm very aware that people have had problems in the past because it's hard to go from 0 to that, right? And the common ways to do this are get an expert in. But if you're not going to do that, these are the kinds of things to think about, right? The number one thing that we tell our clients and that we see not happening when they leave sometimes, and therefore why it falls off, is that management isn't truly on board with it, right? They may see great results while they're with us, but they kind of put that down to Pivotal being great. They don't always realize that really a lot of why it went well is this teamwork environment that we just put in place. And we enforce that for them, but they think it's because we're magical. So when they leave and there's some resistance to it, they let it happen and they don't want to put the onus on the engineers they don't want to direct the engineers to do it every day. So you've got to have support from management. I can't say that enough. The physical layout is one of the first things we look for when we go into a client who claims they're already pairing, right? So often people say, oh yeah, we pair. The job ads say that we pair, they know it's a good idea, and we go in there and there's cubes. Or there's an open space with individual machines with names on them, and they're different Vim configurations, right? If you don't have that physical layout set up with communal machines usually, it's a very strong signal that you're not really pairing all the time. So those two things are critical, the physical layout and the real buy-in from management. It is true that you need people who want to at least give it a try. If their minds are totally closed to it, it's not going to happen. The best thing you can get is people who are willing and interested. Half of them are that way, or most of them are that way. And then some people on the team who have some prior experience. Ideally, there's kind of the coach role who knows what this looks like. But you need to have people who are at least willing to give it a shot. They can't be adamantly against it, right? And in my experience, going into a wide variety, probably hundreds of teams over the last 10 years, maybe thousands, people assume that there's going to be massive resistance from most of the team, or at least the architect, or at least the junior person, or at least the senior person, or whatever. I've heard everything. If you really talk to people and you really explain what it means, and you sort of show them how it looks, it's actually quite rare that you get massive resistance. If you do, it's usually out of fear, actually. People are afraid they're going to get shown up, or they don't like the idea of talking. But if you make them realize it's really just geeking out together, and you do it a lot of the time anyway, but you don't call it pairing, they start to come around to it. But I'll give that, people who want to do this or are willing to do it, it's important to see the team with that. And then it's important to say, how's it going all the time, the usual retrospective idea. If you don't say that, things don't go well, things fall off and people stop doing it. One of the best outcomes of pairing kind of at the management level or at the reporting level, is that the feedback you get on each other is incredibly accurate, right? Typically, we have a problem in software, which is how do you evaluate developers? We know it's not lines of code, right? But what is it? Well, some people think it's lines of code. But, what is it? You know, and it's difficult because you've got a manager and you've got people code reviewing you, but you get these very infrequent check-ins with each other. You get an hour or two a week talking about real code. So the manager's trying to distill what the reality is at the end of the year or the end of the quarter or whatever. If you're pairing all the time, and say you're in a team of 6, you've got 5 people who've worked with you, every day for the last 3 months, and their feedback on you is usually extremely accurate. I look at peer reviews all the time, and without fail, there's consistency across the team about a given person. It's very rare to see differences of opinion about a given person because people pair with them. You can't really hide if you're pairing all the time. So the same feedback comes out. It's consistent. It's not usually wrong. So maybe it's hard to take sometimes, but people really get the right feedback very quickly when you're pairing. So that's a massive improvement usually over the typical feedback situation. And when people realize that, they're more open to it as well. So make that point early on. And to be honest, I would say have the whole team pair. And if you can't get that to happen, find a sub-team on a sub-project where there are 4 people who really want to try it, right? It's more important to have a success early on with this style, even if it's a small team, than to try and get the whole team overnight to do it. If I say make the whole team pair, I mean make the whole team that's doing it pair, not kind of half pair. Don't try and set it up such that if you want to pair, it's fine. If you don't want to pair, it's not fine, which I see all the time as well. Because if you do that, it won't happen hardly at all. Or if it does, it'll be very wishy-washy. So try and do it full out. Suspend disbelief, give it a shot full out with someone who's done it before, and you'll see the best results. The common hours thing is important. Our culture in software typically is come in whenever you want, leave late at night, drink Mountain Dew. Pivotal Labs, it looks like come in at 9, leave at 6, we have breakfast for you. It's very important to us that you're there all together all day long, which is radical, I realize. So the initial version of it can look like choose the pairs the night before or an email the night before, and the pairs figure out what time to show up together in the morning. So if the team's 6 people, at least have each pair show up at the same time and commit to the same day, right? Ideally, the whole team's there together, but at least do that. So these are kind of important parts to put in place to make the thing work, or important points to make to the team. This topic usually, and I expect and I hope it's arousing all kinds of questions and people shaking their heads, so I'll be at drinks later. I've heard everything, and I still believe in it full out. I still run a company that has hundreds of developers doing this every day, all day, so have a drink and ask me your real questions later on.
Thank you.